Hello there, this is another vid to try and help you guys with what proves to be one of the worst bits I've been told from students, which is the research and how to write about your images. Most of you guys love taking the photographs, but you hate doing the actual written side of it, so hopefully these guys will make it a little less painful for you and make life a little bit easy for you when you're doing your research element in your exams. Now what's in the video, it's going to show you how to write about your images, giving you guides and little tips and little things like that, how to then write research about your artists, and then importantly how to then connect that with your work and your photography. Don't forget to also please check out some of my other videos which are on YouTube that are going to help with other students' examples and other exam questions and basically what else you could possibly do in your exam. The video is just broken down into 3 parts: how to write about your images, the artist's images, and how to connect. And just as you can see here on the screen, there are 3 different types of sets of guides to help you do that. Sometimes you might need to pause YouTube, maybe print screen it, or if you need copies, please drop me an email and I can send you some. Otherwise, please check out my Behance site, be.net/GRW, where you can just get access to the Google Drive link where that is. The first couple of prompts here are just for writing about your images, and they start off as questions really, and basically you just need to answer those questions in sentence form in your booklets. Try and use whenever you can specialist vocabulary, talking about camera settings. Make sure you think about things like the visual elements, talking about art and design as well as photography as well, and then what technical language can you get in there. Talk about lenses, talk about what you did on Photoshop, try and be specific. These things here, which look a little bit different to the other things that are in there, are like just what I call prompt slides or guide slides, where in PowerPoint I'd normally sort of ask students to use the rule of thirds and answer the questions about their images to show what they did for a best and worst image. In these following examples here, you can just see how writing has been made using that rule of thirds to make the writing even more specific. So you're talking about composition, you're thinking about things that you could relate it to and help you write, anything to give you that 1 foot up and that 1 step up to make your writing more sophisticated. Next in the video is just advice for how to write about artists specifically. What I recommend is you maybe think about following this process, which is 3-stage process, which basically shows you 1, complete a PowerPoint mood board, or you could do that in Photoshop or anything like that. Complete a mood board. Once you've then done the mood board, however you then want to do that, it's then going to be a matter of then annotating that mood board. When it comes to the annotating, you'll see that in the slides to come, I generally suggest you adopt a method where you analyse first, then you do considerations, then you show your post-process and pre-planning, and always annotate with those things in mind. Once you've done some annotation around your mood board, I normally suggest people print screen it back into the next slide if they're in PowerPoint. I then need you to do, or then recommend you do, one image really well analysed, talking about the rule of thirds, making sure that you get all the camera settings, you really sort of show the considerations for that. If you're still not quite sure how to do that, have a look at these next 3 slides. This is the first one here, just talking about analysing, and I've analysed it on the right hand side, how you can start to do that, and then put the key elements that you need to be talking about when you do that yourself. This one here, writing considerations, very similar to the next slide on post-process and pre-planning, just showing the examiner you can consider what to do in an artist style before you then go and do it yourself. Whether that's how you're going to take the photo, or what you're going to do while you're taking a photo, or afterwards in Photoshop. The final slide here before we sort of move on to some images of artist work is just about connecting and explaining. And again, very, very similar to those other guides I've showed you, it's just got question-based responses where if you do that, put that into sentence form and explain it as best as you can, you're bound to get yourself decent marks for your research. Following this part here about emotive opinions, always get your opinions in there, even if it might be wrong. It's your opinion, you thought it, therefore it's valid. As long as you can explain it and it makes sense to you as best as you can, then try and get it in there. Okay, it helps if it's like sort of comparable to someone else who's thought the same thing, but don't worry about it if that's not the case. These next couple of slides here are just showing good examples of initial research. Give you a few ideas for how you might set it out in your book when you're doing your own research. This next slide here is an example of bad research or bad connections. And what that looks like is basically where it's very obvious you've been lazy, you've not thought about lighting, you've not thought about how to connect it to an artist, and you just try to blag it. And it's going to be really obvious to the examiner, so make sure you connect your work as best as you can. Think about making your work sophisticated. Don't just go for the first thing that you can sort of scrounge together and get sorted. Always think about your connections. The next 6 slides here on the chart were done by an A-star student last year, and they basically show a breakdown of the starting point images that were taken, as well as the artist inspirations that then shape that student's work. You can see here, especially on this next slide, that annotations then start to become a bigger part of what's going on, alongside then a little bit more in-depth research comparing her work to the work of the artist, here directly visually and also in the articulation as well. Also little sort of print screens from Photoshop as well have been included, just showing levels changes, showing sort of what's been done to the work to connect it with the artist, technically as well as visually. These last couple work really well, comparing more than one artist then together, showing the images between the artist and the particular student really clearly, making it explicit what you're wanting to get, and also then really sort of shows your flair for sort of articulating your response as well. Try and get again the layers box, only use a snipping tool, print screen, something like that. Just try and get to use whatever you can really to show that you're being a bit more technical in your thoughts. Try and also as well think about composition. It's not all just about Photoshop. What could you do to show your flair for composition? Analyse it against other artists. Probably the daddy of composition for me is Bill Brandt. What you can't sort of get from composition there from that chap, well, I don't know. It's not sort of possible. I don't know. But anyway, moving on. In the rest of the video here, you'll see just a few examples of sketchbook pages that show how some students write using like sort of silver gel pens or white gel pens. Other people prefer to word process and then invert it, either in PowerPoint or Photoshop, making sort of white on black text. Depending on your sketchbook, depends what you want. These last few slides here are just showing a really important element for those people who are pushing for those A's and A stars, which is, if you ever do research, please make sure you stop and become re-informed, or you target areas to redevelop. Talk to your classmates, talk to your teachers, talk to other people, and see if they can suggest other ways you could develop your research, and then redevelop, and then become re-informed by looking at your work that you've just previously done, or what you intend to do next. It's a really useful thing, and it shows your ability to refine, so you're not just hitting AO1, you're hitting AO2 as well, that lovely refinement and reviewing box. The last bit of the sort of video here just shows you a couple of examples of artist connection sheets, as well as predominantly working in sketchbooks. I do recommend that my guys also show a artist connection sheet, just clearly showing a visual link with a little bit of information that explains the connection and the critical link between the photographers and artists you've used in your unit. It's great to show the examiner in just a little snapshot, because they probably only have a very short amount of time to mark your work. So if you can get the big guns out and show them this, along with the rest of your work, and it can sort of really help out. Apart from that, guys, I'll leave it about there. If you got any questions, please email me, or check the rest of my channel for the rest of my stuff. Okay, thanks a lot, bye.